Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. It is a spin-off of the website and book review site of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is about book reviews, a writer's muse, a book's peruse, author interviews, and literary news. Welcome to the new year, where new things may happen with this. I hope you all enjoy, and thank you for listening. Hi, this is Amy Shannon, and this is Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Yes, I am back for a new year. I know I said I was going to stop the podcast at its last episode in December. I've been getting some feedback about some of the changes that I wanted to make to kind of cut down on my workload. I was going to cancel the podcast completely. I was going to end Literally Magazine at the end of 2025. But I have decided to keep them on, but doing a little bit differently. So the podcast itself, that it is on, you're probably listening to this on Spotify if you're actually listening. But it's also being fed to a podcast playlist on my YouTube channel for Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. So if you ever wanted to find something out like that, you can type in Amy's Bookshelf Reviews in your favorite search engine, and you will come up with my website and social medias, and probably a lot of other things. If you type in author Amy Shannon, you'll get a lot of stuff too. If you just typed in Amy Shannon, you're going to get information about a neurologist, and then you're going to get information about me. So Amy's Bookshelf Reviews or author Amy Shannon, and you will be able to get information on how to contact me, or what I do, and you want to be part of it. My magazine will be it's the first issue dropped on January 1st of 2025, and it's a new format. I've updated pages. I've created wonderful graphic advertisements. Along with that, I have what I call a clipper magazine called Bookly Literverse, which is basically a magazine that is just filled with advertisements. And these are literary and artistic and various advertisements that have to do with, maybe someone's a graphic designer, someone makes book covers, or they're an author and they want to promote their book or themselves, or their podcast, or publishers, or whatever. And it's a free magazine, and people can pay to have their ad in it. I find sometimes I get a lot of those kind of things in the mail from they're like a bunch of local businesses advertising in one spot. And it's a magazine. You can just flip through it and there you go. You could see maybe services that you would use, maybe something you're interested in. Also, recently, I put on Amy's Bookshelf Reviews webpage a pop-up about the things that Amy Shannon can do for you. Some people have been working with me for years and they don't realize that I also do editing. I have been working on improving my graphic designing skills and using my own skills, learning more, and also some interactions with various AI programs. And I've come up with some great book covers. A lot of the book covers I do myself. All of my book covers I have done myself without the use of except for one, without the use of AI, just images and things like that, that I put together I am very excited to continue with the podcast. The change in the schedule is only that instead of every Sunday, this podcast will go live on the second and fourth Sunday of each month. And I'm hoping to not just talk about authors' books, but also I've opened up the spot for interviews, not just authors, but publishers, agents, things, people that want to talk about what they do and share with other people. Also, there you can buy a 10-second advertisement, audio only, that could be put on during one of the podcast shows. I am so, excuse me while I drink my coffee too. I'm glad I'm getting back into it. It's been a while because my other all my episodes had been already recorded and put on air. Interviews will also be pre-recorded, and I would just work out time to do it with the various anybody that wants to have an interview. All my information about interviews and pricings and getting your book on the show, they're all on my Amy's Bookshelf Review website under podcast navigation. Also, by the time this one airs, I think I will have already done my first live stream on YouTube, the first Saturday of every month. At least we'll see how it goes. At 6 p.m. on Eastern Time on YouTube, I will be going live and, just kind of talking, and maybe, people want to join and comments or questions, and just kind of like hang out. It's not just about Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. It's basically about anything literary that you want to talk about, or anything you want to talk about, even if it's outside of that particular realm. So, we'll see what happens. So yes, it's on my YouTube channel under podcast. It's called Sit Down with Amy Shannon, and I will be doing it live. So we'll see what happens and how things work. Sometimes you got to test things out in order to decide if you want to do it or not. And as I said, there's different formats for this particular podcast. That is going to be, like I said, once a month. But also it's something different. I need to really cut back on my work, and I have a lot of work to catch up on, a lot of reading and a lot of reviews that I still need to write. So I just, I listened to the authors who said, no, don't get rid of the magazine, or don't get rid of the podcast. And I've had people that say, you know what, if you do this, you do that, then, maybe, you could still do it in just a different way. So one of the things about Literally Magazine, that I'm not giving away free advertising space. If you purchase an advertising space in Literally Magazine, you will get a free 3-month advertising space in the Bookly Literverse magazine. And I think that's kind of also some of the format. It just ended up being a lot of work at the month, like the week prior to it being released, that I had to do. So I have created some new sections and gotten rid of some old and making some sections smaller. And there's actually, this started last month, but I actually have author spotlights with dead authors, and I also have author interviews with dead authors. And basically, I have a bunch of questions, and I have an AI answer as if they were that particular author, and it ends up kind of being interesting because they're just gathering information about the author that I'm talking to, and and what they might say based off of what the whole world knows about them, and wherever they can look for resources. So I am excited about that. That is something that I think is pretty kind of interesting. I thought about doing some other stuff like that, but I've decided it was more work than it actually is. So this is more, this episode is more like a happy 2025, and I hope that we have a really good year. I hope that your work, let's just say you're writing, because if you're writing and you love it, it's not work. It's the stuff after the writing, the fun part, when it can be kind of tedious, or you are unsure, especially if you have a debut novel coming out. Many times, I have people that are in the middle of writing a book, or they want to write a book, and whether it be they're going from short stories to novels, or vice versa, or they want to try a different genre, or they're writing for the first time and they want to see if their work is any good. So people will ask me to read their work. Sometimes I charge a $30 reading fee, but sometimes, whatever the author can afford. And I also have to have a minimum, because I can't do like a whole big promotion for like $5. I have all of my only steady income comes from my Social Security. So anything extra goes towards keeping my websites up and running, the expenses of doing that, and also my time. I think my time is important. I like to do projects on my own. I do have other things that I work on that are separate from writing, but also in the interest of helping others. I am disabled and I have to use a wheelchair sometimes to get around. I am slowly losing my vision, but I still read as much as I can. I just can't read as fast as I could before. So I'm trying to play catch up, and getting the authors that I say pre-review tiers, get their reviews posted and focus on, what's coming up next. I got an idea for having the review tiers, and then I thought, for me, it can help cut down my workload, because the author can decide where they want their reviews posted. And so sometimes it can be something very simple. But also, if you look at the review tiers, you're not paying for the review. You're paying for where I'm going to post it. And you're paying for some, might be a little extra promotion for you. And if you compare the promotions individually from my author's promotions page to what you get in the tiers, you're making out like a bandit. I mean, normally I charge $40 per YouTube video, but if you get the premiere, you get 2 YouTube videos. And if you get a lifetime, whether it's a legacy author or priority access pass, one's $200, the other's $250. Every time you do a review, you get a premiere package, whether it's for a legacy author, priority access author, or even a release date review, which also has premiere tiers on that. And one price for basically for the lifetime of you or Amy's Bookshelf reviews. I must say, there are times when I thought, oh, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I'm going to finish up what I have to do and then stop. But then I realize I like it too much. I like helping authors. I like interacting authors. I like making friends with authors. And I hope that, if you're an author listening, that you think of me as a friend too, because sometimes the stuff that authors talk about can only be talked to with other authors. So it's good not just to have a network, but to kind of have a network of friends. So, and I know there are a lot of authors out there that are very close friends. And personally, I don't have a lot of close friends anymore. After I lost my grandmother, I lost basically my last friend that I could just talk to about anything. So it's nice to have somebody that you can talk to or email or text and say, I'm just having a good day, or I'm stuck in the storyline, or I have all these books to read. Do you recommend something? Things like that. So I do think it is, I like doing what I do. I like reading. I like helping authors. I like making friends from around the world. So I'm going to continue this podcast. And, if you listen, share it with other people. It's really going to be about, writing and book reviews and things like that. And one of the things that I was kind of going through some stuff of mine, kind of cleaning out the old things and looking at, I have a list of unfinished work that every once in a while I'll open it up and be like, oh, yeah. Then I start reading it and I'm like, nope, that's coming. And I always call it story block because I think that there are times when people always call it writer's block, but I think that if you're in the middle of a story and you have to sit and think and figure out what's going to happen next, you should walk away from it. And just because that story is going to be sitting on your shelf virtually or wherever, or in a desk drawer, you could always come back to it. And it doesn't mean you can't think of an idea for a new story. Or you can go back and read maybe something that you have written before, and maybe you can create a sequel or another book in the series. It really depends. And one thing I do recommend, if you do write sequels to your stories, before you do that, read all the ones that come before that. And I know sometimes that when you have like 2 or 3, it's no big deal. My largest series actually is a saga because it's got 67 volumes. But even when I wrote that last 67th volume of that story, that finale, I sat down and I read through all of those again because that was so big that I had to keep a spreadsheet of who's related to who and things like that. And I also did that. I do that with all of my stories. I create, once they're basically, like when you're at the self-editing stage in your drafts, I go through and create character lists and make sure that I use the same characters' names. I've made that mistake before. It ended up being good for a better story, but making it sound like it was 2 people instead of 1. But, keeping track of your characters, what they do. Sometimes your minor characters end up being major characters later on, which is fun. Another thing that you can do is, challenge yourself. Read a book that is somewhat, okay, let's see. Read a book that is maybe not your typical, what kind of book you would read. Sometimes it's fun to go to, I go on Amazon and I'll go to the Kindle books, and then I'll go to like the top 100 books for free, the ones that are for free. And then I look and see what they have. And sometimes you have to scroll. But sometimes you can find a book and it's free because they're offering it on sale for $0. And that's by the author's choice. So because they want to get more readership and maybe for their other books as well. And so find one that maybe piques your interest, but it's not in like the normal genre that you read. Say you read romances all the time. Well, look at ones that are romance, but maybe they have sci-fi as a sci-fi romance. It's fantasy romance. Maybe you want to make yourself blush and do an erotica. Read something that you wouldn't normally think to read, something that piques your interest. And I recommend, never judge a book by a cover. And it's not just because I have seen covers that you could tell they use a template because several books by several authors are using the same one. And I think that you can make the most simplest book cover without having to use a template. Heck, you can do a picture of, you can make a red cover and then type the title on it, and it would be better than any template because it's not distinguishable. And I've found covers that were really good. So, see what the book is about. I don't really read details into the book description. I think the book description should be more than 3 paragraphs, but that's my own opinion. But I do think a book description should not tell you everything you need to know about the book. Because why read it if you already know the whole story? But in looking at challenging yourself in your writing, you're challenging your reading. And reading, yes, it is fundamental. It could take you places that you didn't know you needed to go. And I must say that years ago, I was like not a fan of vampires. Not a fan of vampire stories, anything to do with vampires. Unless it was kind of wacky, like something else. Anyway, but then I read vampiric books, a whole set of them by Melanie Nowak. And reading her books turned me onto thinking, oh, well, I can expand. And I would read other vampires. And I must say that in my head, sometimes I compare them to how she wrote hers. But I don't, and that's only in my head. And just because, and I think about what I liked about hers, and then I think about what I liked about whoever's book I'm reading and what maybe I don't like. I have found that if you're a younger author and you're reading about vampires and they've lived for forever, they're immortal, so they've lived forever feeding off people, that they do not speak like teenage girls. So, think about how you would talk like a vampire. when it comes to writing, sometimes you can tell the age of an author or the gender of an author. And even if you think about if you picked up a book and it only had a book title, no author's name, or they have initials, or they're using I forgot how they refer to that, where, you could be named Chris and you could be male or female um, or non-gender or whatever. But when you read the story, unless it specifically has to do with age appropriateness or gender, sexual equality, things like that, and where that type of thing may come into play. And I read this book. It was called Multi Voices, and it was a bunch of artwork and letters and diary entries of persons who were going through some type of identity crisis, whether it was gender fluidity or sexual orientation or neither. It's just being different. Anyway, so when you read it, you want to, you don't need to know if the author is male or female, and you shouldn't have to, or if they're 70 or they're 7. I've read books written by kids that, you would think they were a lot older than they actually were. And I've had stories where I have read and they were written by adults and they sounded like they were 16-year-old girls, and it didn't make how it was written didn't make sense to the genre of the story. But going back to unfinished work, sometimes you could go back to it and look at it. There's times when I was writing 2 different stories and then I realized, if I just change one thing, I could put this into one book or one story. And I actually did that. So that was something, you never know. I keep an idea notebook, and when you get your story down and you want someone to read it, yes, you can send it to me, ask me if I would read it for you. The reading fee will be based on what you could afford, and see if you want, and it's not a review, it's just to read to see if it needs work, it makes sense, it's worth you writing. And I want to say that if you're questioning your writing, why are you questioning your writing? If you're writing, don't question it. Just write it. Get whatever you want on paper. Some people, they're not good storytellers on paper, but they're great storytellers if they say it out loud. And other times it's vice versa. And then I've read authors who want to make sure that they get the technique down of writing rather than what is involved in the plot moments. Or people that are so focused on word count that the story feels fragmented or incomplete, or just too many fluffy words that don't belong within the genre. Some stories, especially like romance and stuff, when you want a lot of fluff and I love you and you're sexy and you got this great bodice or whatever. Sorry, that's great emotions. read one of those recently. But since I've been doing Amy's Bookshelf reviews, I've read everything from do-it-yourself books, self-help books, religious books. Some books I've read, and then I was like, I don't ever want to read this type of book again. And then I created an unacceptable genre list. So things like that happen. But I am Amy from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews, and I will continue to read and review your work. I will also do whatever I can to help you. If you ask for my help, I will do my best. And if I can't do it, I will see if I can find someone who can. So you're not alone out there. I know sometimes when you're in your office or wherever you sit to write and you're getting frustrated, or you just wish you had somebody that you could talk to or vent to or ask questions because you're unsure of something. Well, if you don't have that, you have me. And I want you to all to know that. Because as long as I possibly can, I will never stop helping other people, especially authors. I don't like it when it makes my heart hurt when people have to put aside their talents and their skills in order to do something else. They have a job, they have kids. But what I can say is that if you could take 10 minutes, 15 minutes out of your day or out of your week to sit down and write, do it. Maybe there's a time when everybody's in bed and you want to go to bed, give yourself that half hour and write, and then go to bed. If you do that also, when you're always keep a notebook with you on hand, in your purse, in your backpack, in your briefcase, in your pocket. Use your notes section on your phone, whatever. So when you get an idea, you can write it down and then come back to it later. I still do that. Plus, I keep a notebook by my bed, so I can actually, if I wake up from a dream, and I will write it down to remember it if it gives me some ideas. So, welcome to 2025, authors. This is the first broadcast of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews in 2025 under its new format, and I will be here every second and fourth Sunday of the month at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Time on Spotify, and you'll be able to listen to me on YouTube. So thank you very much, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. If you are looking to be on the podcast or looking for a book review, you can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com and look for the appropriate navigational menu. Again, thank you all for listening and being a supporter of this podcast and of the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews professional reviewers of books and audiobooks. Thank you all. Be safe and be well.